Alright, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to calculate your macros and calories so that you guys can stay on track with your fitness goals while still actually, enjoying your life and not being restricted to eating chicken and broccoli all the time. So if that sounds interesting, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, what are macros? So macro is short for macronutrient, and what that basically means is all of the foods we eat are made up of 3 different macronutrients. So we have carbs, we have proteins, and we have fats, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. So as far as calorie equivalents go, each 1 gram of carbs is worth 4 calories, 1 gram of protein is worth 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat is worth 9 calories. So fat is technically the most calorically dense macronutrient, so that's why we generally have a little bit lower fat in our diet as compared to, protein and carbs. So the first thing we need to do in order to find our calories and then our macronutrients is going to be, we need to find our RMR or our BMR. Either or, it's the same thing. RMR stands for resting metabolic rate and BMR stands for basal metabolic rate. So essentially what this means is this is the amount of calories that your body burns doing absolutely nothing. If you were to, sleep all day, stay in bed all day, stay on your couch all day, your body is going to burn a certain amount of calories to do that, just to, go about normal functions, pumping your blood, your organs, all that kind of stuff. Your body burns calories to do that. So this isn't going to be including any exercise in the day, so not including your job, any extra exercise you do throughout the day, none of that stuff. So for example, my BMR is about 2200 calories per day, so that is what my body burns at rest when I'm not doing any type of exercise. And one thing you need to keep in mind when it comes to your BMR or your RMR is the more muscle mass you have, the higher your BMR is going to be. So you see like those 300-pound bodybuilders walking around, they have a high BMR because they have so much muscle mass on them that it takes a lot more calories to maintain that muscle mass, because muscle is what's called expensive to maintain, which means you use a lot more calories when you have more muscle. But nevertheless, let's get into it. So for the purpose of this video, we are going to be using a 21-year-old, 6'1", 200-pound man. So these are the stats you're going to need to know for this equation in order to calculate your RMR. So you're going to need to know your age, which I hope you do, your height, which we are going to be converting into inches, and then your weight. So the formula we are going to be using is called the Benedict formula. So you can type that into Google and search it up. I'll have that up on the screen here. Anyways, we're going to run through it. I'll have it up on the screen here as we run through it. So basically what this is going to do is it is going to allow us to calculate our BMR. As you can see there, we have 66.47, and then you're going to plus, open bracket, 6.24 times your weight. So in this instance, the person we're using is 200 pounds, so we're going to put 200 in there, close bracket, plus, open bracket, 12.7, and then we are going to multiply that by your height in inches. So 6'1" converts over to 73 inches. So we're going to input 73 there, close bracket, minus, open bracket, 6.755 times your age. So we were using a 21-year-old male here, so we are going to input 21 there, and that will give us our BMR here. So that is going to give us right around 2100 calories is going to be roughly this person's BMR. So a 21-year-old, 6'1" male that is weighing 200 pounds, their BMR is roughly going to be 2100 calories. Next thing we need to do is we need to match this to your activity level. So when we're thinking about, what our maintenance calories is going to be, we need to keep in mind our activity level. So the BMR is great, but we're going to try and calculate our macros here, so we need to know what our total caloric intake needs to be for the day in order to be at maintenance. So maintenance means basically that if we eat that amount of food, we are neither going to gain nor lose weight. Our body is just going to maintain its weight where it's at. So that's what we're aiming for, is to find our maintenance calories right now. So here's kind of the scale. So if you are doing little or no exercise, we're going to multiply that number by 1.2. If you're doing light exercise 1 to 3 times a week, we're going to multiply that number by 1.375. Don't worry, I'll have this all up on the screen here. Next is if you're doing a medium exercise 3 to 5 days a week, we're going to multiply that number by 1.55. If you're doing hard exercise 5 to 7 times a week, we're going to multiply that by a 1.725. And if you're doing intense exercise, or you have a physical job, or you're working out twice a day, we're going to multiply that by 1.9. So, if you're like a construction laborer or something that you have a very labor intensive job, then and you're also working out, then you're gonna kind of fall under that one. So for example, let's say that this person is in the medium exercise category. So we're going to multiply that number of 2,100 calories by 1.55. So that is going to give us 3,250 calories roughly. So that would be this person's maintenance if they were medium exercise, and then also all the other stats that we've already talked about. Now let's move on to starting to divide this up into the macros. So first off, we're going to start with protein, because protein is definitely the most important macronutrient, because it is important. It helps the building blocks for your muscle mass, as well as gaining and holding on to the muscle that you already have. If we go body weight wise, we're going to want to aim for 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. So for this person's protein intake, that would be somewhere between 200 to 240 grams of protein, which is good. I always like to aim for the at least 1 gram per pound. You could go a little bit higher, but 1 gram per pound is going to be totally fine for most people. Percentage wise, you generally want about 30 to 35% of your total calories coming from protein. So this is where we're going to take our calories. We had our calories 3,250, so 3,250, and you're going to want to multiply that by 0.3. So that'll give us 975. And then this is where, so stick with me here with all the numbers. So this is where those 4 calories per gram of protein comes into play. So we're going to take the number of 975, which is 30% of our calories, and we're going to divide that by 4. So that's going to give us 243.75. So we'll say 244 grams of protein would be 30% of your diet's calories. If we go on the higher end at 35%, 3,250 times 0.35 divided by 4, that's going to give us 285 grams of protein. That's a little bit high in my opinion, so I would either aim for the 30% or the 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. Right, next, moving on to fats. So fats, body weight wise, you're going to want between 0.3 to 0.4 grams per pound of body weight when it comes to your fat intake. So that would put this person's fat intake at 200 pounds between 60 to 80 grams of fat, which I think for a 6'1", 200 pound man is a pretty good number. Percentage wise, we're gonna again want to aim a little bit lower, between 20 to 25% of our total calories from fat. So if you take the number that we had, the maintenance calories, 3,250 times 0.2, and then remember, fat is 9 calories per gram, so it's the most calorically dense. So we need to take that number of the 20% of our calories, which is 650 calories, and we're going to divide that by 9. So that would give us 72 grams of fat. And then if you go on the higher end, if we go at 25% of our calories, that is going to give us 90 grams of fat. So somewhere between 72 to 90 grams of fat is going to be great. So finally, we have your carb intake. So body weight wise, I suggest most people's carb intake be between 1.2 to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So a 200 pound man, this would put his carb intake somewhere between 240 to 300 grams of carbs, which is generally kind of a good ballpark. It could be a bit higher, it could be probably not much lower, but it could be a bit higher depending on how insulin sensitive your body is. So that basically means just how your body handles carbs and if you store carbs as fat or not. But percentage wise, you'd pretty much want the remainder of your calories coming from the carbs. So let's say, for example, you use 30% for your protein and 20% for your fat, then you're still going to have 50% of your calories left over from carbs. So if we do, so 50% of your calories, 3,250 divided by 2, that gives us 1,625 calories is 50% of your calories left. So we're going to divide that by 4 because carbs have 4 calories per 1 gram. Divided by 4, that is going to give us 406 grams of carbs, which that's definitely on the higher end. You could go a little bit lower. So that's kind of where it comes into play when you just kind of start playing around with your macros, is you could do like 35% protein, 25% fat, and then you'd only do 40% carbs. So that's where it kind of comes to play around personal preference. So now let's just set a definite macronutrient goal here, just for example to give you guys. So let's say we do 35% of our calories from protein, 285 grams of protein. So let's just use this for example. So 285 grams of protein, we'll do 25% from fat. So 3250 times 0.25 divided by 9, that'll give us 90 grams of fat. So 285 grams of protein, 90 grams of fat. And then the remainder is going to come from carbs, so 40% carbs, so 3250 times 0.4 divided by 4 will give us 325 grams of carbs. So I think those are pretty good macronutrient numbers there. 285 grams of protein, 325 grams of carbs, and 90 grams of fat. You could also go like 30% protein, go a little bit lower, 25% fat, and then 45% carbs to bump up the carbs a little bit. But this is all going to come down to personal preference, so that's where it comes into play of like, are you training super hard? Are you training twice a day? Do you have a physically demanding job? How does your body react to carbs? Like, are you naturally kind of a heavier person like I am? I store carbs very easily. So it's like if I was eating, 450, 500 grams of carbs a day, I'd just get really fat. I wouldn't be putting on a lot of muscle. I'd be putting on a lot of fat because my body stores fat easily. So it really depends on what kind of person you are. You need to know that. And I know that there was a lot of numbers in this video, a lot of equations, kind of stuff like that, so it might have got a little bit confusing. So if you guys are interested in having someone just take over and do this for you, that is where a coach would come into play. So they just do it all for you. It takes the headache out of it for you guys. They just give you your macro numbers, you go off of it, you're good to go. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys can click the link in my bio below to apply for coaching, and then I can just do all your macros for you. But some of the benefits of using, macros, it's really good because macros allows you to be very flexible with your diet. If you just go based off of a macro approach, I use a macro approach for a lot of my clients because it gives them the freedom. I personally like sticking to a diet that I eat the same thing every day, day in, day out, for a couple reasons. One, I like it for consistency reasons, so I'm not having a lot of fluctuations in my weight because I'm eating the same thing every day. And 2, I just like it because then I know what I'm eating. But for, most people like my lifestyle clients, it's nice because they don't want to be eating the same thing day in and day out because they're not trying to get absolutely peeled. They're just trying to, lose some fat and live a healthy lifestyle. So by doing the macro counting, you could go and, eat a donut and punch that into your macros, or you could go have, some low calorie ice cream or whatever. I've done macro count before. I've done both. I've been on a meal plan and I've done macro counting, especially in the off season. Sometimes I'll just do macro counting because it's easier and it allows me to give me a little bit of freedom. So macro counting is super great for that because it just adds that flexibility to your routine. But that is gonna do it for this video, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I know there was a lot of numbers, so if you guys have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments below, or you can head over to my Instagram at Brody Christie Fitness and you guys can message me directly and I will be sure to answer any questions you guys have about this. But that's all for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and with that out of the way, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.